Hi there, and welcome to the last section of our science course. I never thought we would get here. This has seemed a very long time for this, but we've learned a lot, and that's good. Okay, I'm looking at the food web terms, and these go with the text on 164 through the end of the book, which is 166, because there's a practice test on 167. And we're starting with decomposers. And these are organisms or living things that break down organic matter. And organic is matter that contains carbon or living things. So decomposers are the things that break down. If a body passes away out in the forest, a squirrel dies or whatever, that body starts to decompose. It's nature's way. And the decomposers are the organisms that cause that to happen. The food chain is the sequence in which matter and energy are passed through an ecosystem. So we're going to look at a diagram of a food chain, and that will help you to understand how that works. And you've probably seen a version of this before. It just may not be as clear. Okay, a food web. This is close to a food chain, but this is a diagram that shows how species in an ecosystem are connected. I'm sorry if you hear the background noise, guys. It got very noisy in here. I almost discontinued my filming, but I'm going to try to go ahead and finish it. A diagram that shows how species in an ecosystem are connected, and we're going to look at one of those also. Symbiosis. This is an important biology term, and it's symbiosis. I've also had professors that pronounce it symbiosis, but I'm going to go with what I've learned and hope that's the correct one. We can look that up on the internet to be sure, but symbiosis is a relationship. You very often hear the term symbiotic, so that's more common, I think, between two species that interact with each other. And usually this is a positive thing. They're helping each other. If one is harming the other, we usually call that a parasite or parasitic. But if it's symbiotic, it's usually both parties benefit from a symbiotic relationship. Trophic levels. Trophic levels are positions in the food chain, and we will look at those when we do our diagram. So trophic levels are positions in that food chain. And I think I'm just going to go ahead and scroll on over, and let's look at some pictures here of a very basic food chain, and then we'll move on down to a food web. So this one is the food chain. It's a very simple food chain. And the image source is the free clip art library. I just went online and looked for free clip art. And as always through this course, I want you to pay attention to the arrows because they show you the direction that your thoughts should follow. So on this one, we have the grass, and the rabbit eats the grass, the fox eats the rabbit, and that's the end of this particular chain. So this is a very simplified food chain. Okay. So then we have the trophic levels. This is called the Trophic Pyramid, and this is from Teachers Pay Teachers free clip art. And here's another example sort of a food chain that's in a pyramid. So you have the primary sources, which are your grass and your plants. You've got the grasshoppers and the worms and the butterflies that feed on those primary producers. And then the lizards and the mice eat those primary consumers. Then the owl is eating the mice and the lizards. So those show you the steps in the food chain. What I want to call your attention to are these terms, where you have tertiary, secondary, primary, and then you have producers. So let's back up here to our food chain, and I will label that for you. This is a producer. The grass grows, it produces food for the first person or creature in my food chain is the primary. So primary means one. Secondary would be this guy. Secondary means two. And if we added, let's say that we had a human out here who killed the fox and ate it. I don't think I've ever heard of that, but that would make the human the tertiary consumer. So this particular food chain only goes to secondary. Just to give you an idea of one more, let me go through. We have grass, and we have a rabbit that eats the grass. In some areas, we have a bear that eats the rabbit, if the bear is a carnivore. And then we have a human that eats the bear. So the flow of energy through this food chain is producer, primary consumer. So the rabbit eats the grass. The bear eats the rabbit. So he's second from the grass. And then the human eats the bear. That would make him the tertiary consumer, or the third. So those words, primary, secondary, and tertiary, you probably do need to know just what those mean and how that relates to this chain of movement, energy through the ecosystem. Okay, the last diagram we need to look at, this one is considerably more complicated. And I know that by looking at my arrows. Okay, the goat feeds the lion. The snake feeds the tiger, or the kite, which is a bird. The mouse feeds the owl or the snake, depending on the day. The mouse is eating the tree, the green plants. The rabbit's also eating that. The goat is eating the green. The rabbit might provide food for a jackal, which may feed the lion. You see how this web is more than a chain, because there are all different elements in this web. The one question that I want you to consider in all of these pictures is this. What if the grass disappeared? This is a cause and effect relationship. What if the grass disappeared. What if you took out the grass in each one of these scenarios? Well, obviously, the food chain would fall apart, because if you don't have that initial producer, the primary, secondary, and tertiary consumers really don't have anything to eat. So that reminds us again of the importance of plants, of preserving the earth, because we need those plants. We need those primary producers to start this process rolling. So that's just something to think about with respect to how the energy moves through the ecosystem and the environment, and how important it is for us to preserve what we have. Alrighty, I want to go to your morphemes page one more time. There are a few medical terms that I want you to know, so I'm going to add those in here. Even though you don't have reading on them, I still want you to know what they mean. So let's just make a list of these, and then we'll be done with this unit. The first one is cardio. You may already know that that means heart. Pulmo is lung, or lungs. Pulmonary is lungs. Neuro is nerve. Osteo is bone. Myo is muscle. I thought of another one and it left me just that fast. Neuropulmonary, cardio, onco. Onco is cancer. Treatment of cancer. We did bone, we did, okay. Optic, or opti, is eye. The two, audio and aural, are ear. You can also have otic for ear. All of those refer to ear. Ped, or pod, is foot. Dent is teeth. And I believe that's all I can think of right now, but that's a pretty substantial list. So let's go ahead and highlight the morpheme, and that will give you a few more on your list of things to learn. I have very much enjoyed working with you on this course, and I hope that you have learned a lot. We have covered so much ground. If you look at all that you've learned. So I appreciate you sticking with me. I do have other courses available. If you're interested, get in touch with me and we can put you in those classes as well. As always, I'm here if you need me and if you have questions. But I wish you the very best, and I hope to see you again in another class. Bye-bye.